Assalamu alaikum, what is up guys? I hope you all are doing well. In this video we will discuss another tablet manufacturing technique which is called wet granulation. But before that, before I discuss wet granulation, you guys must know what a basic granulation is. So granulation is basically the process of size enlargement, and it is the most important operation in the production of solid pharmaceutical dosage forms such as tablets and capsules. So basically we mix the powder with the binding agent or a binder, or you can say granulating liquid, and the product we get is granules. So what are the reasons for granulation? Why do we use granulation? Number one reason is that it enhances the flow property of the powders. Number two, it produces dust-free granules. Now this is one of the most important reasons of why do we need granulation. In a simple direct compression, we just mix active ingredient and excipient in a polythene bag, and then we mechanically shake it with our hands. So that creates a lot of dust in the room. So to avoid that dust, we use granulation. The third reason is that it improves the appearance of the final product. And number four, it basically reduces the hazard associated with the dust that may arise during manufacturing process. As I discussed earlier, dust can be hazardous in the case of direct compression. So to avoid this, we use granulation. So now we're going to discuss some steps involved in wet granulation. The first step is weighing. For weighing, we definitely need neat and clean room. We need scoops and polythene bags for mixing of powder. And then we need a production pharmacist for formulary. He is responsible for the amount of drug that you use while preparing a powder. Second step is called milling. Milling is basically the reduction of particle size of overly sized granules. Here you can see this is a milling machine. This is a mesh, and from this mesh large granules are passed and they are reduced in the size. What is the purpose of milling? Basically, this increases the surface area and hence faster drying time. If we increase the surface area of anything, more and more surface area is exposed. So if the surface area is exposed more, then the drying time is faster. It needs less time to dry our powder, and it provides excellent product final appearance. Third step is called mixing, and for mixing we use a machine called ribbon mixer. Here you can see this part is called the ingredients inlet. We introduce our powder from this part, and this is called discharge valve, and in the mid these shapes are called ribbon. Basically these are responsible for the mixing of our powder. They move back and forth and it results in a mixture of a powder, and then through discharge valve we get our final product. And this red part here is called shaft. Ribbons are basically attached to the shaft. When the shaft moves, ribbons also. So this was the third step, mixing. And the fourth step is called wet massing. In this step we sprinkle the binder on the ribbon mixer. So ribbon mixer was used to mix a product, and now in the wet massing step we just sprinkle the binder on the ribbon mixer. For example, it can be gelatin paste, starch paste. We will sprinkle this binder on our ribbon mixer while it's processing. Then when we do this, lumps are actually made. Then we check whether it breaks into fragment or back into powder. If the lumps break into fragment, then our wet massing is complete. If it does not break into fragment, then we should repeat this step. Now if we use less binder, it leads to soft tablets and poor adhesion. Why? Because the binder is less. Binder basically, as I've already discussed in my previous videos, binder basically binds everything. So if the binder is less, then adhesion will be less. Powders will not bind together and the tablets will be soft. Now on the other hand, if the excessive binder is used, it leads to slow disintegration of tablet inside our body. Why? Because the ingredients are bind to each other at a greater extent. So it will lead to slow disintegration of tablet. Fifth step is called granulation. For the granulation purpose, we use rotary granulator. And you can see in this picture, this is the rotary granulator. Now, when the wet granules are produced after wet massing, we introduce the wet granules in this portion of the rotary granulator. Then through mesh, powder passes from this place to the trays. We place trays here, and the powder goes into tray and spread on it. So we get a fine size granules. Next step is called drying. For drying, we use two types of apparatus. Number one, this apparatus here is a tray dryer. Basically, drying process is used to dry the wet mass, and in the tray dryer, hot air is continuously passed, which basically increases the temperature of the mass and heats it, resulting in the loss of the moisture, and hence it gets dry. But this process is actually very time consuming. It takes about 8 to 12 hours. So this is actually a time consuming process. Now the second apparatus we use for drying is fluidized bed dryer. In this apparatus, a hot air comes from the bottom of this machine and goes up inside the machine and suspends the granules in the air, and this is actually good in a sense that it takes less time to dry as compared to the tray dryer. So when the granules are in suspended state, it is called fluidized state. The next step is called lubrication. This is actually the final step before compression, and the apparatus used for this step is cube mixer. Here you can see the cube mixer. This step basically helps to prevent sticking to dies and punches. Dies and punches are the parts of a tablet compression machine, which I will discuss in my upcoming videos. So if you do not lubricate your powder, if you do not lubricate your wet mass, it will basically result in sticking to dies and punches, and we don't want it. And secondly, it enhances the flow property of the wet mass. Now we will discuss some advantages of this process. Number one, it enhances the flow property of powder. No dust while mixing. And number three, binds API with excipient, thus reducing segregation ability. I have already discussed this second point in detail in this video, and the third point basically means that if the APIs and excipients are not bind together properly, it will result in segregation. And what are the disadvantages of this process? Number one, tray drying is time consuming. It takes about 8 to 12 hours. So it is very time consuming. Number second, number of steps are more in this technique before compression. There are about 6 to 7 steps. So a lot of steps here. And third, stability issues for moisture sensitive substances. Why? Because this technique is called wet granulation for a reason. In the wet massing step, we add gelatin paste on the ribbon mixer, and it is in a fluid form, it is in a liquid form. So this is not good for moisture sensitive drugs because they are sensitive to moisture. They will not stabilize under wet condition. So for those kind of drugs, we use another technique which is called dry granulation, and I will discuss that in my next video. So I hope that you guys understood the topic. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the like button, and